ought to have come and had a discussion with you that in the process of handling the budget of the different ministries, especially concerning the health facilities talking about, for them to beef up the committee, they should go there so that it doesn't have to come on the floor. Right, Honorable Speaker, I think as members of Parliament, we should also take advantage of coming to your office where you have left the door wide open so that such advice would have come there. Members are free to go and visit the facility and make recommendations to this House. I thank you.
Honorable.
Right, Honorable Speaker. Speaker.
Honorable, sit down. Honorable Justin, I know where he's coming from. There is a team that went to that hospital and they were denied entry. This one we must speak as members of Parliament. They were denied entry. So what we need to do, the Prime Minister must give us the position of what is happening in Lubowa Hospital before we finalize with the budgeting process. We need a position.
Most obliged.
Thank you.
Speaker, members of Parliament come to your office when they have matters of national importance. And there is no way you can permit a member to come to this microphone for that matter when he or she never came to your office. There's no speaker. The honorable member from Ajumani, I'm on procedure, honorable, learning the procedures of Parliament. There's no speaker. The honorable member from Ajumani raised the very pertinent issue here about her technical school. And indeed, government promised to construct technical institutions in every sub-county. And the evidence of that is the former Secretary General of NRA who drafted the manifesto. So the procedure matter I'm raising, is it procedure okay, Honorable Speaker, for the senior minister who is representing the government here to intimidate a member like Honorable Mwanga Chifumbi and I, that we should not come here for minor issues, and she goes to the extent of even speaking vernacular or another language I don't hear in this house? Is it procedure okay to mean that we don't come to you, we come to this house without you giving us permission and getting our matters of national importance? Is she trying to underrate your office? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You sit. I did not see anybody being intimidated. Actually, you're the one intimidating the minister. Now you're intimidating the minister. Okot.
Right Honorable Speaker, I rise on a matter of national importance over the inhumane eviction of the residents of Ilera Parish, which is in Ayer Sub-County, Kole District, by National Forestry Authority. And with these evictions, the lives of most of the young people that I represent, the livelihoods have been significantly disrupted. Right Honorable Speaker, I have received multiple visits and distress calls from youth leaders of Kole District in this regard. The origin of this inhumane eviction, which is characterized by destruction of houses, crops, torture of residents and animals, and even the residents have no access to water points, even to their gardens, is that the National Forestry Authority claims that this disputed land is a forest reserve. And on the other side, the residents claim that this is the only land.
Judith, why don't you allow court to finish?
Okay. All right, I'll take information after. So, Right Honorable Speaker, the residents on this land claim that this is the only land they have lived in since 1930. And we're talking about 92 years of settlement. And in a recent ruling in the High Court of Uganda, dated February 22nd, 2022, in the case of Odo Martin and Authority, court granted an order of temporary injunction, restraining National Forestry Authority, its agents, workmen, and successors from evicting the residents from their residential and farming land, from cutting down their trees and crops planted in the disputed land, and also interfering with the status quo until a final disposal of the main suit. However, Right Honorable Speaker, this ruling has been in vain. I'm actually in possession, Right Honorable Speaker, of a copy of the court ruling, and probably with your permission, I'll lay this my prayers, Right Honorable Speaker, are that this House demands and its agency should be tasked to explain to us why they have failed to abide by this court injunction, and they continue to torture residents and the young people in this particular area. But also secondly, that the security officials who are deployed in this area immediately vacate or even stop the inhumane treatment of our people in that particular information.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much, Honorable Okot. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm rising to give information on what the Honorable of the Youth in the Northern Region has given. Right Honorable, indeed, our people in the area that has been mentioned in Elera in Kwale district are really suffering. The women and the children have been displaced. I was called this morning and I got the information. It is quite appalling that in history, it seems there has been some area that had been gazetted by government, but even the people of the National Forestry Authority is not aware of the boundary. So the people who have been evicted have even gone beyond the so-called the forest reserve that the government had earlier. So, Right Honorable Speaker, from any land. But these people have already been evicted and they're already suffering, you know, with the women having no access to water, the children having no access to school, and that is what is happening right now in Kwale district, in the place called Ilera Parish, in Ayer sub-county. I think the Honorable can now continue with these prayers, but I think the responsible ministry should really take a keen interest in this matter, because we are not going to keep silent about it. Thank you.
Government. He gave out his time. Okot, you gave out your time, you became the speaker. Can we have the government?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, let me get in touch with the minister responsible for the docket to come and give us response, since they have raised the issue that people are suffering, most especially the women. Thank you.
And Honorable Minister, there was a directive from the President that people should not be vacated from some areas like those ones. So I think the ministry needs to make sure that these people are what? Are staying in that place peacefully. And what is said, how some women are being raped and that kind of thing, that must stop. Minister of Security, you need to ensure that our people and property is safe.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you. And now that we have the Minister in charge of security is here and the Minister of Internal Affairs, please go and give directives so that you save the human lives, especially the mothers. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity granted. I'm Charles Tebandeke, the fisherman. I stand to raise a matter of national importance against the discrimination in issuance of licenses to the fishermen traders in the country. Right Honorable Speaker, we are all aware that according to the statutory instrument supplement 2010, number 33 of the Fish Act, directs the ministry to issue licenses to stakeholders in the country in accordance with the Department of Fisheries. Right Honorable Speaker, accordingly, during the media brief conference on the licensing of fisheries activities conducted at Media Center in Kampala, by the State Minister for Fisheries, directed that the issuance of licenses must run from January to 31st of March, following any calendar year. Right Honorable Speaker, in accordance to Rule 12 of the Fish Act 2010, it prohibits any fishing activities to be done without licenses. Rule 13 calls for members or stakeholders to apply for these licenses. Right Honorable Speaker, members have applied for these licenses, the local traders, the Ugandans have applied for these trading licenses. However, surprisingly, the minister has gone ahead to issue license to only the foreign and the Chinese. And the local Ugandans are busy off their goods at the expense of the jubilating Indians and the Chinese. Right Honorable Speaker, this contradicts with Article 21, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. In the same manner, it is contrary to the National Objective 14, subsection B, where all people in the country must be treated equally, irrespective of the sex, the color, and the gender. Right Honorable Speaker, it is surprising that the ministry has not accorded respect and has not given any guideline on how to protect the local dealers, the Ugandans dealing in fish mills, at the expense of protecting the Indians, which is a sign of promoting oligopoly and monopoly. In my prayers, Right Honorable Speaker, I pray that
Susan, you'll also bring it on your own. Can I have the prayers? All the fishermen and fisherwomen are here.
So much obliged, Madam Chair. Right Honorable Speaker, in my prayer, I pray that the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries explain as to why it is effecting the discriminatory issuance of licenses to only the foreign dealers in the sector against the suffering Ugandans. Prayer number 2, I pray that the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries, in conjunction with the Ministry of Trade, explain the circumstances under which the department responsible for issuance of licenses shall protect the local dealers, the Ugandan citizen, in such a lucrative business without discrimination. Right Honorable Speaker, I pray that explain as to why there is effective implementation of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Bill before it is effective here in the House for debate and the Parliament passes, because the stay of enforcement officers in military uniform, the soldiers, contradicts with the enforcement rules and principles. I pray that it's really urgent to protect the local dealers and Ugandans. Right Honorable Speaker, biashara imekuwa mbaya na wananchi hapa wanaupata biashara imekuwa kali. Tunataka business hii kwa ministry kuje to protect Ugandans from business.
Honorable
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I want to thank the member who has raised the issue to do with the business in the fisheries, and also want to thank him for reminding us that our second official language is Swahili. Thank you so much. Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, the issue the members raised is to do with the livelihood of the people in the fishing community and the business community. If time allows, Right Honorable Speaker, let the Minister of Fisheries be accorded the time to come and make a substantive submission on this matter, because it affects more than half of this country in terms of livelihood, but also the component of business. And he has also raised it concerning constitution. So we are a law-abiding government, so it would be better that we have substantive submission.
and
All
the members of Parliament from the fishing communities should give their issues to the minister so that the minister reports at once.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I would suggest that simplify their work. Whoever has a submission, let the office of the government chief whip receive them and hand them over to the minister with an acknowledgement sheet, so that they don't have to go to the ministry to look for the minister, because the ministers of agriculture in the field, and it will do. There is the office of the government chief whip. Thank you.
Honorable Lumumba is the acting government chief whip. Next item.
Item 3.
Honorable members, the next item is a very important item. Stop those things first. It's about the lives of people. Please sit.
Urging governments to immediately stop cattle rustling and restore peace, security, and stability in the subregions of Teso, Lao, Acholi, Karamoja, Bugisu, and Sebei.
Honorable Sano.
Right Honorable Speaker, I rise on Rule 56 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament to move a motion on a resolution urging government to immediately stop cattle rustling and restore peace, security, and stability in the sub-regions of Teso, Lango, Acholi, Karamoja, Bugisu, and Sebei. Whereas Objective 3.1 of the National Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, enjoins all organs of state and the people of Uganda to work towards the promotion of national unity, peace, and stability. And whereas Objective Roman 14 of the National Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda enjoins the state to endeavor to fulfill the fundamental rights of all Ugandans, social justice and economic development, and to ensure maximum social and cultural well-being of the people. And whereas armed raiders and accomplices have historically raided cattle, sheep, goats, property, and killed people from the neighboring districts, inflicting terror, untold suffering, displacement, damage of property, loss of individual and household economic assets, creation of orphans and widows in the affected districts, government policies and initiatives to restore permanent peace have been inadequate, inconsistent, and slow in being implemented. Aware that a similar motion to this one on the disarmament of Karamojong was moved on the floor of this August House in the 6th Parliament on Thursday, 9th March 2000 by then Honorable Captain Mike Mukula, MP of Soroti Municipality, with prayers for the disarmament of Karamoja, removal of armed warriors from neighboring districts, and setting up local militia to protect neighboring districts against the rustlers, provision of relief to affected households, and calling upon government to address socio-economic and development needs of Karamoja. Further, aware that government carried out a disarmament exercise from 2005 to 2010 in Karamoja and Sebei sub-regions and successfully recovered over 40,000 illegal guns through voluntary and forceful disarmament with a promise to guarantee the protection of lives and safety of livestock from internal and cross-border raids through the security forces. Noting that as a result of the disarmament exercise, cattle rustling was halted, and from 2011 to 2018, security, peace, and stability was restored in the entire northern and eastern Uganda and Karamoja sub-region, which in turn allowed the return of our people to their ancestral lands, the resumption of social and economic activities in the affected regions, plus increased development activities in all the affected areas. Concerned that from 2018, government withdrew security forces from Karamoja and the neighboring sub-regions, while reabsorbing and disbanding the LDUs, inadvertently creating a security vacuum that first ordinary cattle thieves exploited with impunity, paving way for illegal rearmament of the Karamojong. Concerned further that since 2019 to date, the cattle rustlers in Karamoja have reacquired guns, thereby increasingly attacked peaceful citizens, stolen unspecified number of livestock, i.e. cattle, sheep, and goats, from within Karamoja itself and the neighboring sub-regions of Teso, Lango, Acholi, Sebei, and Bugisu, causing fear, terror, injury, and loss of lives. Further, concerned that in Karamoja sub-region, there is an additional problem of being afflicted with cross-border raids from the heavily armed Topotha, the Turkana, and the Pokot. Recognizing that the raids have grossly affected service delivery and socio-economic activities, have caused displacement of people, and disrupted the normal lives of local people in all the affected sub-regions, particularly in the districts bordering Karamoja. Alarmed that in the light of the foregoing, the level of military deployment and response put in place by government to prevent and counter these raids is far short of the magnitude and extent of the insecurity and the mayhem on the ground. And worse still, the perpetrators are not being brought to book. Further, alarmed that whereas His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, launched a livestock compensation program for the sub-regions of Teso, Lang, and Acholi on the 26th of March 2022 at Soroti City. With these continuous raids, the intended purposes of the compensation program cannot be achieved with these ongoing cattle raids and insecurity in the same sub-regions. Convinced that short-term and long-term solutions to ending once and for all this senseless looting, terrorism, and killing of innocent Ugandans, raiding of the hard-earned animals, displacement of people, and the ensuing general insecurity, the perpetuation of underdevelopment and poverty in Karamoja and its neighboring districts, regions, always lies with government of Uganda, according to Article 20 verse 2 of the Constitution, 22 verse 1 of the Constitution, 24, 26 verse 2 of the Constitution, and Article 202 A, B, and C, which has more than sufficient capacity to take firm, decisive, targeted, and comprehensive actions to address with immediacy the underlying causes and effects of the armed raids within Karamoja and its neighbors. Persuaded that the active involvement of local, national, and where necessary, regional political, civic, cultural leaders, and other stakeholders from the sub-regions of Karamoja, Teso, Lang, Acholi, Bugisu Bay, and our neighbors, Kenya and Southern Sudan, in charting a way forward is critical for finding sustainable solutions to this menace. Right Honorable Speaker, now, may I therefore request that let it be resolved that the Parliament of Uganda, on this date of 14th April 2022, urges and resolves as follows. 1, that government, in accordance with Articles 26, 209, 212, urgently and adequately deploys security forces in Karamoja and the districts bordering it from the sub-regions of Teso, Langwa, Choli, Bugis, and Sebei, with adequate logistical, material, and financial resources to stop the rustling that is illegally depriving people of their right to own property and subjecting people to torture, cruelty, and security. Number 2, that government, in accordance to Article 17, B to D of the Constitution, reinstates the LDUs from the affected districts as a permanent auxiliary force under the command and coordination of the UPDF with improved management and remuneration, trained, armed, and deployed within their villages, communities, to support and work with the UPDF and Uganda Police Force in deterring raids, protecting lives and property, plus tracking and recovering of stolen animals from the armed raiders. 3, that government takes steps to immediately remove all armed herdsmen moving within the sub-regions of Teso, Langa, Choli, Sebei, Bugisu, and Karamoja, including all the armed Turkana, the Topotha, and the Pokot. 4, that government with immediate effect and in accordance to Article 22 of the Constitution relaunches and accelerates a comprehensive and sustained disarmament process in the Karamoja region to remove all illegal guns from civilians and from the raiders. 5, that government, within 6 months from the date of this resolution, and in accordance with Article 22 of the Constitution, implements a mechanism to prevent the acquisition and the proliferation of illegal guns within Karamoja sub-region and from the neighboring countries. 6, that government holds accountable for negligence and failure of duty security officials charged with protecting lives and property, under whose watch unabated arms raiders occur. Innocent lives of Uganda and insecurity ensues, both in Karamoja and its neighboring subregions of Teso, Lango, Acholi, Bay, and Bugisu. Number 7, that government, in accordance with Objective Roman 23 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, through the Office of the Prime Minister, immediately provides relief to the affected and displaced people in the affected areas whose normal lives have been disrupted by the perpetual cattle raiders. 8, that government to verify and pay compensation to the people who have lost lives, livestock, and property to the cattle rustlers. 9, that government, in a measure to deter raids and ease the monitoring, tracking, and recovery of any raided or stolen livestock, urgently implements, through the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Industries and Fisheries, a program to brand and tag all livestock in Teso, Lango, Acholi, Sabei, Bugisu, and Karamoja subregions. 10, that government, in accordance with Objective Roman 12, subsection 3, Roman 14, A and B, Romans 18, Roman 20, Roman 21, and Roman 22, undertakes special measures in the form of affirmative action programs in education, health services, economic infrastructure, and food security for the catch-up development of areas and communities whose economic growth has retrogressed or stagnated due to the cattle raids, so that they may enjoy social and cultural well-being like the rest of Ugandans. 11, that government identifies and deploys sustainable solutions to the underlying factors causing the perpetual possession of illegal guns, cattle raids, insecurity, and ensuing poverty in northern and eastern Uganda. And finally, Madam Speaker, that in accordance with Article 79 of our Constitution, a law be enacted to adequately and specifically criminalize, penalize, and make raiding a very expensive and consequential venture to all its perpetrators and abettors. I beg to move.
Thank you, Honorable Seno. Is the motion seconded? Is the motion seconded? Is seconded by Honorable Kibaria, Mpindi, Olobo, even Joel. Okupa, Hassan, William, by the whole house. Ayachayo, Opolot, the Prime Minister has also seconded it. Yes. We are putting order on me. Mr. Seno, Honorable Seno, can you speak to your motion? Or you've already spoken?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to speak to the motion and to the members for seconding this motion. Given the scale of this problem and the impact it is having on our country, I will beg that you allow me to speak to it to enable the members appreciate what we're dealing with. Cattle rustling and violent conflicts in Karamoja and with its neighbors predates the colonial era and was centered around livestock competition for grazing land and water for animals. The difference being that the raiders were using spears and arrows, which their neighbors would effectively counter. These armed raids caused the kind of insecurity that made both the British colonial government and the post-independent Ugandan governments devise unique mechanisms for policing and securing peace in and around the sub-region. And I paraphrase. Last night, Madam Speaker, while I was watching UBC TV, I learned from the talk show that Uganda's border could have extended up to Lake Turkana. But because of insecurity, the British decided to split the Karamojong and the Turkana so that the two belong to different administrative units to avoid one entity being overwhelmed by insecurity. After the 1979 fall of Idi Amin's government, when the raiders accessed an unknown quantity and array of modern and automatic weapons from Moroto barracks, the raids and conflicts became frequent, massive, deadly, widespread, and led to the recognized regionalization of insecurity and cattle rustling. No one in or in the neighboring areas of Karamoja was safe. The raids extended past Mbale to Palisa district in the east, past Acholi up to Adjumani in West Nile, and even across the borders of our country. Between 1999 in Karamoja, raids had caused more than 1,200 people to lose their lives and have fatalities. I have a quotation for that one, source of information. Unfortunately, I was unable to gather the data on the lives and livestock that was lost during this period to cattle raiders in the subregions of Teso, Lango, Acholi, Sebe, and Bugisu. However, Madam Speaker, my conservative estimate puts it at around 7 million heads of cattle were lost by these regions to the cattle rustling. This matter is not new to this House. As I said earlier, it was raised in 2002. In 2005, the NRM government decided, through the wisdom of the president, to use a mixture of voluntary and forceful means to disarm and remove illegal arms from Karamoja, which exercise ended in 2010 with the recovery of approximately 40,000 different sorts of weapons. The impact of this has been the following. Immediately when this came on, when there was disarmament, it ushered in peace and security in the entire northern and eastern part of Uganda from 2011 up to 2018, which led to, among other things, one, return of people to resettle in their ancestral lands that border Karamoja, leading to the emergence of new sub-counties. We alone in Kapelebiong have had 3 new sub-counties emerge out of this lull of peace. In Karamoja, people moved out of manyatas, that is staying together enclosed in small areas and unable to do much activities, and they moved out into open areas where they could conduct agriculture and engage in mixed farming. It brought about resumption of social and economic activities in these once insecure areas, leading to emergence of trading centers.
Can you summarize so that other people also speak?
Thank you. Leading to weekly markets, schools, health centers, and economic activities to be able to emerge. And it also attracted investors, local and foreign, into these regions. Madam Speaker, the list of people who have been affected and either lost animals and lost their lives, I will not go through them. I have it on my document. I'll lay here as for the purpose of Parliamentary records. However, as soon as government withdrew UPDF soldiers, insecurity immediately entered. In every, at least in the area of Teso, the deployment was so low that you could go to a facility, a detach, and find only 3 to 10 soldiers in that place who were unable to provide security for the large space they were covering. And the criminal elements saw this loophole and resorted to fast cattle thefts without guns or weapons, and then later on and slowly, when they got arms, insecurity escalated and the demand for guns rose through the roof. The consequence was that all the neighbors again began to face from 2019 growing and increasing cattle raids from Karamoja. Now, this wasn't helped by the UPDF policy of not responding to cries or calls for help at night. I want to inform the House that it come out of their barracks until in the morning hours when they will show up after the animals have already disappeared. I must underscore and make it categorically clear that we, the movers of this motion, and the people we represent, know and are confident that the UPDF, being one of the best armies on African continent, has more than enough capacity to neutralize the insecurity that is coming from the rebels within no time. By October 2021, we began to contact and inform authorities about this insecurity. Madam Speaker, because of time, let me just say 2 or 3 words before I close. Madam Speaker, these raids have not only caused the loss of property and lives, they have paralyzed economic activity in these areas. Number 2, they have caused people to lose confidence in the capacity of UPDF, in the commitment of the UPDF and the government of Uganda to protect their lives and their property. Number 3, it has caused increasing and currently widespread fear and terror among the people, to the point that they are unable to continue with their normal activities, and some have fled. Kapelebiong, close to 6 parishes of people have left and fled to other parts of Teso because of this insecurity, leaving behind a lot of their assets. This inaction and a slow response by government to deploy and provide security has caused this pain, anguish, and exasperation of our constituents, and which we think could have been avoided if there was immediate action. We appreciate on 9th of April 2002, some of our leaders went to my own constituency and drummed up interest of people to pick up arms to defend themselves. And as we talk right now, there's a lot of excitement in my constituency for young people who want to get arms. Secondly, yesterday, we have young people who again have offered to go on riot and demonstrate about this whole matter. So as I conclude, I want to request, as I salute the President for his effort and passing out over 6,000 LDUs with a plan. Government hears our pleas, our prayers, and acts with immediacy to ensure that our people, their lives, and their property are secured.
Thank you.
I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Seno. Honorable members, the issue of cattle rustling has been ongoing for some time, and it is a matter of public importance which needs to be resolved once for all. This House needs to urge government to invoke Article 222 for the people with guns to be disarmed. People have lost lives, people have lost property, children are no longer studying, people have gone back to camps generally. And once we get a lasting solution, it will be a solution for all the neighboring districts. The seconders, we have Nakut, 2 minutes.
Right Honorable Speaker, 2 minutes are not enough for me, given the fact that the insecurity that you're talking about started in Karamoja, and we have contained the pain for 3 solid years. Allow me to put some information that this House requires. It is true that in 2010 there was a successful disarmament and Karamoja enjoyed peace and security for about 10 years. That is a fact. I commend the UPDF for an excellent job. It is true that in 2018, government made a decision to withdraw forces from Karamoja, and it opened the window for criminal elements to come and take advantage of people who had already handed in their guns to government. It is true that during the disarmament exercise, the leadership of Karamoja persuaded the people of Karamoja to hand over their guns on the promise that government would protect them and their property. That was the promise, which was broken in 2018. When that promise got broken in 2018, insecurity started falling in. People started being killed. People lost property in 2019. We lost a number of peace actors in 2019 alone. These were people who were midwifing the peace process, negotiating between government and the people. So because of that broken commitment, the peace actors had to pay with their lives. During the elections of 2021, more than 50% of elected leaders in Karamoja lost their seats because the promise to protect the people had not been fulfilled. And so the people were holding their elected leaders responsible. They lost those seats on behalf of government. The loss, the magnitude of the insecurity in Karamoja is so huge. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have not been silent. You are aware that in this House, we have mentioned it either as an issue of urgent national importance or to support somebody else's motion. We have smuggled it every time possible. However, it hasn't received the attention it deserved. Perhaps because of the assumption that these are criminals, keep quiet. In 2021, when we had just gotten elected, we had a meeting that the CDF called in Moroto Division. Fortunately, he is here to witness. The CDF then is now an honorable member, the Honorable General David Muhoozi. We explained to him the problem of the people of Karamoja and what needed to be done. We warned him that trivializing the conflicts in Karamoja, the insecurity that had trickled in, would affect the lives of many people. At that time, we had just lost 24 lives in Napak alone in 1 month. That was in February 2021. We warned him on trivializing the matter. That meeting restored hope to my heart because my honorable colleague knows how to communicate, and I was at peace that he was going to take action. Several other meetings followed that one. We had meetings with the High Command. We had meetings with His Excellency, and he gave guidelines on what needed to be done. Unfortunately, been done. That is the reason why it spilled over to the neighbors. I said, and I'll repeat again, the real fire is in Karamoja. The neighbors are seeing the smoke. For 3 solid years, we had hope. Hope. The reason you have not seen this motion coming from us, the MPs of Karamoja, is because we had hope in the several meetings with government officials, with several meetings with the people who are supposed to restore security to Karamoja. We had hope, and the hope they made that commitment that security and peace would be restored to the region. Now it has been lost. Many people have lost their lives. During the last State of the Nation address, through the permission of the speaker then, the members of the Karamoja Parliamentary Group left. We absconded the State of the Nation address and we went to the region to give our people hope that government was still absconding. Thank you. The English is a problem. The speaker gave us the permission to leave, even gave us transport. And we visited every district of Karamoja. Right, Honorable Speaker, there is a report I will lay to guide this motion.
What report is that?
Of the 26 members of parliament from Karamoja who went to the
Did you lay
region,
in the house that time?
the opportunity wasn't given.
You can't just smuggle it in now.
Okay. With your permission, I said with your permission, but if you don't, if I don't have your permission, I won't force it. You are the speaker.
Next time.
Okay. You are the speaker. I respect that. When we wrote this report in July, yes, I'm about to conclude.
Faith, yes.
When we wrote this report in July.
Procedure matter.
Madam Speaker, there is a motion on the floor regarding cattle rustling in the sub-regions of Teso, Lango, and Acholi, Karamoja. And I thought that the honorable member had reason to actually second this motion. It now appears to me that the honorable member is trying to amend the motion without notice, because she's not actually seconding it, but bringing an angle to this motion which is not contained in this motion. Is she procedurally correct in so doing without seeking your leave to amend this motion? If not, I would prefer that. Thank you. About cattle rustling in the regions of Teso, Karamoja, Lango, Acholi, and Sebei. Thank you.
The member is not actually amending, but she's speaking the origin of the whole issue. She's telling us how the whole process started. The only question I would ask the member, what was that promise that government failed to fulfill?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. It is important for this parliament to understand the issue in order to get the solution. The moment we don't understand it, we will get a wrong solution and the issue will recur even to the next government. It's important. Now, the promise that government made was, give us your guns. You don't need them for your protection. We will protect you. That promise has not been fulfilled. And that's why we are struggling with the issue again.
Can I ask again? After removing the guns, were the Karamojongs attacked by anybody else and government failed to protect?
Yes.
Which people attacked Karamojongs?
Very good. In 2019, our people suffered raids from the neighboring countries. That was the first raid.
Neighboring countries, not neighboring districts.
Neighboring countries.
The Pokots, okay?
Yes. Our people suffered raids and they reported to the forces. And when they reported to the forces, recovery was not done. That happened, and they've done it again even recently. We've had villages being burnt in Karbong by the neighbors, and nothing goes on because these are neighbors who must be respected. So the injustice on Karamoja has continued because we have been trivializing it, thinking that it is a Karamoja thing, they will deal with it after all. The people in Karamoja are Ugandans. They are as important as all Ugandans are. I was saying, Right Honorable Speaker, before I sat, that by the time we wrote this report in July 2021, we had counted deaths 466. Now we are counting more than 3,000 in a period of less than a year because of inaction. People have lost life. Right Honorable Speaker, it baffles me and it really hurts because I am also a mother. Now in Karamoja, with the statistics from UBOS, more than 65% of households are headed by women. Their men are no more. So when you ask me about the street children, it is obvious there is not much we can do when we have a community that is subjected to that level of persecution and mistreatment. In terms of the number of livestock, we have counted more than 200,000. You can compute it in terms of money. If they were to rob your bank and rob that amount of money, the pain is so gross. It is way too much. We have seen.
Can you conclude?
All right, Honorable Speaker. What I demand of government are the issues include the prayers which are captured in the motion. But most importantly, take an immediate effect to rescue the remaining people. The remaining lives must be saved with immediate effect. And the criminal now is really not tribal, as we think that it is cultural. The criminal elements that have been got so far are of different tribes and including the Karamojongs. They are there and they can be traced and treated as criminals without tribalizing and bundling up everybody in the region as a criminal. That's the reason why I supported this motion, because I knew that it's a motion that speaks for all of us as a people of Uganda. If it wasn't so, I was going to block this motion. I was going to stop it here. But now that, because it's a motion that looks at.
Anyway, you don't have the powers.
I don't have the powers, but I would do my madness. Okay, sorry, Right Honorable. I want to thank you.
Honorable members, the issue that is being discussed is about humanity. People have lost their lives. People have lost their property. People are dying. And as the seconder said, let's not tribalize it. The people who are being killed are either Karamojong, either Bateso, either Sebei, Bugisu, Langi, anybody. And the criminals must be brought to book. All these criminals must be brought to book. Honorable Chemutai is the second seconder. I'm looking at the seconder, then you'll all speak.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable colleagues, I stand to second the motion. And before I speak anything, I want us to remember this quote that says, let me bring it in the context of Karamoja, that when Karamoja sneezes, the neighbors catch cold. That is what is happening now. In Sebei sub-region, because of what is happening in Karamoja.
Honorable Evelyn, she actually said that's the smoke. The smoke from Karamoja is what is coming to all these other areas.
And that's why I've said we have caught the cold because Karamoja is sneezing. So we've caught the cold. And Sebei sub-region borders Karamoja. And because of what's happening in Karamoja, all the Sabines, decided to shift their cows to the upper the forest. We have a national game park. Now, the Sabay people are fighting with the Uganda Wildlife Authority because that's the only place where they can hide their cows. And meanwhile, because they took there to hide their cows, we have thieves again from the neighboring district, from the other side of Mount Elgon, who come and raid the cows from where we are hiding the animals from the other raiders from the lower zone. And Madam Speaker, this raiding has become commercialized. The moment the animals are raided, they are put in lorries and they are taken for sale. So when you try to trace, you don't find out where the animals have gone. And let me tell you, honorable colleagues, the 10 years that our honorable colleague, Honorable Nakut said we had peace. Indeed, there was already economic activities that was happening between the neighboring districts and Karamoja districts. We had jobs for all the neighbors. We have teachers coming from Sabay working in Karamoja, nurses, doctors, all other kind of jobs, even businesses. So the moment Karamoja is in trouble, the social life is affected, the economic activities are affected, and people become jobless. They have to come back home for rescue. Let me talk in terms of security. Madam Speaker, when there was tears in Karamoja, all the ASTOs, the UPDF who were guarding the people of Sabay sub-region were withdrawn and taken to Karamoja to help the insecurity there. So Sabay was left out open. All the barracks are open. So the raiders or the thieves have now gotten an advantage. Coming, they do anything they do because we don't have anyone to protect our animals, to protect the people. And at the end of the day, we have so many people who have died because of lack of security in our districts. We also have an issue of restocking. Madam Speaker, we talked about compensation and restocking of communities that were affected by these raids. It's unfortunately that some of the affected districts were not included. And because of that, it's already raising eyebrows. They're saying people who were affected most have been left out. And now if we are aiming or we want to plan to restock our neighbors or our friends who have been affected, what happens to those ones whom they raided? For example, in Sabay, where all the cows were taken, if they restock, for example, Teso, they restock Karamoja and other districts, what will happen to these ones who do not have the cows? And Madam Speaker, to me, I believe that local problem needs a local solution. I really pray that the government looks at this and brings us back the LDUs. The LDUs understood more what we're going through. The LDUs are local people who come from that specific district, and they knew all the corners that the raiders were going through, and they can block and support maybe our districts and our people from getting through all these problems. Then, Madam Speaker, let me speak about disarmament briefly. People of Karamoja were disarmed and people of Sabay sub-region equally were disarmed. Most of them were promised compensations. They were promised to be rewarded because they had been disarmed peacefully. Sabay is affected by the Pokots from the Kenyan side, and of course our neighbors as well are coming. People gave out their guns and they were not given what the government had promised. So when such a thing happens, people take advantage. They say, last time we gave out the guns, we were not compensated. We have to look for a way of protecting ourselves. So it becomes difficult to stop such people from acting violently on what how they were disappointed. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the people of Sabay sub-region have chosen to wait on the government, for they know that maybe they have a lasting solution and they'll be protected. I beg to move, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Eva. And Honorable Prime Minister, as you've heard, when Karamoja coughs, the neighboring districts get flu, catch a cold. Why don't we deploy armed militia around the borders of these districts? The borders of Sabay, borders of Bugisu, borders of Teso, Choli and Lango, so that we have at least a temporary solution for this. As you do the disarmament, you deploy the armed militia. And as I said, the people within those They are the ones who know the location. When you deploy people in that area, for instance, I remember that time we had Arrow Group, Arrow Boys. They rescued people in Teso. There was a Moka in Ilango. There was another one in Acholi. That would be a local solution really to help these people. Paul, I am picking one person first to second from each sub-region. Then Abe.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Members, let's reduce on the time. The Prime Minister's time is about.
I rise to second the motion.
Before you second the motion, in the public gallery this afternoon we have a delegation from the Muslim community coming from Bukedea. They are represented by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament. Please stand up and we see you. Stand up. You're most welcome. Represented by Honorable Polo Tishaki and Honorable Ikojo John Bosco, you're almost welcome. They are here to observe the proceedings of this house. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, the insecurity in Karamoja has for many years continued to cause so much suffering, not only in Karamoja, but also in the neighboring districts and regions of Lango, Teso, Acholi, and Sebei. Right Honorable Speaker, the honorable members might recall that for almost 20 years, northern Uganda was engulfed in a very destructive, debilitating war that caused so much suffering, so much death, and loss of cattle that used to form the basis of their economic livelihood. Lang alone, Right Honorable Speaker, lost over 1 million heads of cattle. This does not include the sheep, the goats, and so forth. And the raiders exacerbated that condition. Fortunately, Right Honorable Speaker, Joseph Kony and his gang of killers were defeated, and the people of the region, Lango and Acholi, had 15 years of peace and tranquility where they had a chance and an opportunity to rebuild their lives and their livelihoods. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, our fear is that the insecurity in Karamoja might reverse the gains that our region have achieved for these 15 years, where we had the opportunity to lay the foundation for the social and economic transformation. Right Honorable Speaker, I represent the people of Otuke County. And Otuke District borders Karamoja on the eastern side. Right Honorable Speaker, every time there is insecurity in Karamoja, the immediate district that suffers from that incursion is Otuke District. And every time the raiders come, we have lost people, we have lost animals, and we have lost properties. Right Honorable Speaker, for peace and stability to prevail in this country, no group of people, no group of persons should be allowed to terrorize neighbors, to terrorize citizens, to destroy property, and do it at will. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the Constitution of Uganda, under Chapter 4, provides for fundamental rights and freedoms, one of which right is the right to life, and it should not be taken anyhow. And in this regard, the state is enjoined to protect those lives and the properties of the citizens without exception. Right Honorable Speaker, I wish therefore to urge this House to support the motion and the prayers therein, so that the government of Uganda can take action to deal with the insecurity in Karamoja, which is causing so much mayhem in Karamoja itself, and the sufferings in the neighboring regions where Lango is part. Right Honorable Speaker, I submit.
Thank you, Paul Abe.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise up to support the motion. And Right Honorable Speaker, on a sad note, I would like to that few days ago, a child 5 years of age was burned in the house by the Karamojong raiders in Kitgum district. And this continues to be the song. As I speak to you right now, honorable colleagues, there is total unrest in these two districts of Acholi sub-region, and that is Agago and Kitgum district. To be specific, that is Orom sub-county. People are running. People are now on the run seeking for where they can find peace. Right Honorable Speaker, the UPDF has tried. But I want also to note that the interventions being made by UPDF is also being affected by the local leaders within the neighboring districts, especially in Karamoja. Some of these local leaders, if I may mention, connive with these cattle riders. When we had a meeting, some of them stood up and they were defending the actions of the UPDF. And they wanted to protect. Right Honorable Speaker, these issues we are talking about has got to do with the lives and property of the human beings. We are looking at cattle compensation. I don't know how the people who are going to be compensated will still go ahead and buy the cows and replace when the neighboring districts are going to suffer from the cattle raiding. Looking at the parish development model, Right Honorable Speaker, I can assure you there is no economic activity or any activity meant to boost the economic situation in these areas can be achieved when we still have these challenges. In Orom sub-county, these areas of Akurumo and the rest, you can hardly see any kind of development in these areas. These children don't go to school. The parents can't even go and practice agriculture. You just see poverty. You don't even need to look at any scientific proof. But the whole situation is because there is no security. As we all know, that for us to achieve anything, we need proper security. These are my prayers, Right Honorable Speaker. The government needs to come up with a robust strategy. First of all, to look at how we can address the short term.
Are you amending the prayers of the motion or?
Right Honorable Speaker, this is a support to the motion which has been brought on the floor. Some of them were mentioned. I'm just throwing highlights, Right Honorable Speaker. The strategy, the short-term strategy is to provide at least a relief support to these communities that are being affected, and also draw a strategy that addresses these challenges the way we are doing for the refugee hosting communities, if we are to help these people. And also lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, we must think of compensation of this affected community. And if we don't have this addressed as soon as possible, our people who are affected with this cattle raiding, and indeed it will be a challenge on our sides of leaders. But another plea I would bring on table is that the politicians or the local leaders and the national leaders we are very ready to support the work of the security and go on ground. Even if the measures are tough, we are ready to defend it as long as it can bring peace to the
Okiral, Atuto. I am coming this side. Okiral and Atuto. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Are we going to sleep here?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, for the record.
Members, I only want new points. Only new points. Don't repeat what has been said. What has been said is captured.
Most obliged, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, for the record, I'm Bosco Kiror. When you alluded to Article 222 and the reading of that article of the Constitution together with Article 79, Parliament discharged its obligation and made the relevant laws. That is the UPDF Act. Possession of guns, those firearms, is a total illegality. That should worry a man in uniform to hear that somebody is in possession of a firearm and should give that person sleepless nights. Right Honorable Speaker, the topic, the motion today is such a very difficult motion. In such a manner that this is something we experienced while we grew up. It's very unfortunate that the years have passed by and we have gone back to the insecurity that we all thought we had resolved. Whereas Karamoja and the neighboring districts are discussing insecurity, other parts of this country are already discussing progress on how to put down development programs. Should be the same pain that should be felt in all the corners of Uganda. And we have to stand together and realize that anything which is impeding growth in any part of this country should pull all of us together to see to it that peace is in Uganda. Hurting, I support the prayers that have been put in the motion. The matters of security, if you look at it, it's akin to right to life. It's like somebody going to the theater. It can't.
Honorable Prime Minister, what members are saying, instead of us wasting money for the parish development model and putting in those sub-areas, let's first restore security. Because that money will be wasted. People are going to be killed, even if they use it for anything like they are using it for development, the money will be stolen. So let's not waste taxpayers' money to put in that sub-region. First restore security, and then you invest.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving way. For record, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving way. For purpose,
I did not give way to you. I didn't give you away, but I've given you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. For record purpose, I am Atuto Jacinta, woman member of Parliament for Kapelebyong District. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion, and as you're already aware, this has been insecurity in the sub-regions of Sebei, Lango, Acholi, and Karamoja itself. And currently, Kapelebyong is one of the districts that has severely been hit by the cattle rustling and even killings. Madam Speaker, the issue of rustling is no longer news, but it is a real situation that has befallen upon the mentioned sub-regions. We remember we have been raising this issue on the floor of Parliament as a matter of national importance. And to my dismay, nothing has yet been done. Madam Speaker, a case in point is on 30th March 2022, one person by the names of Otai Daniel was killed by the rustlers in my district, in Okunguru sub-county. The body of the late Otai was therefore carried in the district headquarters. Madam Speaker, handling that situation was a very difficult time. But we ask government to know that the people of Kapelebiong are more aggrieved and have suffered innocently in the hands of these cattle rustlers. Because we accommodate.
Achayo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm Achayo Juliet Lodo, MP Ngora County. Madam Speaker, a peaceful, stable, and secure environment is critical to every single society since it affects all aspects of social and economic development. In the 90s and 80s, the Teso, Lango, Acholi, Bugishu, Sebei sub-regions were ravaged by cattle rustling that inflicted untold suffering to the people for about 2 decades. Lives were lost, property including worth billions of shillings. As a result, the economy of the affected areas got shattered and poverty increased to very high levels. In fact, the situation would rather be imagined than described. Madam Speaker, government, however, managed to contain the situation and cattle rustling was brought to an end after the implementation of the disarmament process. Peace later returned to the state sub-regions, coupled with various affirmative interventions. The economy of the affected districts got revitalized. Madam Speaker, it's mind-blowing regions at the time when we think that government has the great capacity in terms of security personnel, intelligence gathering, and the necessary military hardware to deal with such criminality. Madam Speaker, I urge government to do all it takes to end cattle rustling, restore peace and stability in the said sub-regions. Otherwise, how shall we attain the sustainable development goals? And finally, Madam Speaker, I would like to end with the famous quote, "It isn't enough to talk about peace. We must believe in it. It isn't enough to believe in it. We must work for it." I thank you.
Thank you. Speaker, I'm going to pick from every region. Opolot, Lorica, Achia. I am coming. And remember, today is the Thursday, there is Prime Minister's time. Yes, I said Opolot first.
Thank you. Right Honorable Speaker. On behalf of the people of Pingere, Madam Speaker, Pingere County is about 70 kilometers from the borders with Karamoja. However, given the precedence of the late 1980s and 1990s, Serere was directly Pingere, therefore, empathize with our brothers and sisters by the current spate of cattle rustling in Karamoja, parts of Teso, Sebei, Bugisu, and so forth. Madam Speaker, I do join the uproar of my colleagues in the House and the people of Teso regarding the current situation. In view of the confidence that we've had on the UPDF over the years and that have pacified that area. Madam Speaker, as leaders, our capacity to raise this issue and question authorities responsible has been put to question by the people of Teso, despite our concerted efforts towards that direction. Therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, those that are responsible in protecting our lives, property, should take this issue with utmost seriousness. And Speaker,
as I said before, it's not about the people of Teso per se. It is the people of all the affected areas, including Karamoja. It is the people of Sebe. It is a national issue. What affects the eastern region affects the whole country. Yes. Lorica.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. For purposes of record, I'm Adome Francis Lorica. I represent the people of Moroto Municipality. I rise to support the motion. However, I want to put emphasis on some of the issues that were discussed earlier, especially on the nature of conflict in Karamoja. It's unfortunate that all this has been reduced to mere raids. People talk about cattle rustling, but the main issue is the people of Karamoja are being exploited at the cost of the government watching. People are being tortured. There's a lot of human rights abuse. We are only talking about cattle. I'm also going to talk about things that are more productive. People lose lives on a daily basis. And it's only of late, when we lost geologists, that is when the country started understanding that there's a lot of trouble in Karamoja. Madam Speaker, why am I saying this? Right now, we have pockets.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member. Right Honorable Speaker, the member has just stated here that the situation in Karamoja, or the people of Karamoja, are being exploited. I would like him to clarify, because we don't want people to exploit others. Who is exploiting who and why?
And the other thing is, people are being tortured. Do they pick people from their houses, torture them without any problem? Or they are being tortured when they go for a raid? And if the Karamojongs are being tortured, must they take that hunger to Teso, to Sebei, to Bugisu?
Right, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable colleague. Right, Honorable Speaker, we have situations where cattle have been recovered, but end up in the hands of the wrong people. Cattle are not given back to the owners. So that is one factor that is very clear. We have so many complaints. Cows have always been put together and called, people have been called for identification, but the rightful owners don't receive the cattle that they're meant to. And then secondly, Right Honorable Speaker, if you look at the way people attack villages nowadays, they actually come and burn homes. They come and burn and kill people. They come and burn homes. They even burn the crowds. So I am actually interesting the UPDF to pay attention, because this might not only be cattle rustling. There might be an activity in form of rebel activity that is taking place there. So you should actually try and understand exactly what is happening. Because if we talk of rustling, yet there are groups that just come and burn homes, kill people, and even burn the cattle and walk away. That means they are trying to pass a message. They are trying to terrorize the community, pass a message. That is what we need to understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg your indulgence as a member, chairperson of the Karamoja Parliamentary Group, to give me an extra time. My colleague has answered in depth
Honorable members, I am allowing this debate for only the next 10 minutes.
Thank you.
No, I'm not giving you 10 minutes.
Oh, I thought so.
The whole debate, and we adopt the report. The report has a very exhaustive recommendations. We are repeating the same things. So you speak and I come this side. Abedi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, first of all, I want to recognize the achievements of government, especially the UPDF in Karamoja, over the last 10 years. It was recommendable, we enjoyed the peace. I also want to condemn the current emerging criminality within Karamoja and that which has spread to our neighbors. Madam Speaker, it's almost exactly 12 months ago when we started as elected members of parliament from Karamoja to go and talk to the people and meet the security. 12 months, very little action. It is insanely impossible to understand. The massacre murders came, we sorted them out. The Kampala bombings came, we have sorted them out and we're in Congo. I can't understand. After even giving a full report last year that something is happening in Karamoja, we went and got the details. We told this government, stop this before it spreads. 12 months ago, Madam Speaker, the letter that you gave me, which allowed, I have attached this report, you gave us permission to go to Karamoja. We met security, we gave it. All I beg this house is, please, can we move our own government to take action? It has the capacity, it has the resources. Why are we waiting 12 months? We have sorted other things which are visible to the press. But for us, because we are invisible, the problem in Karamoja is now visible, becoming. Thank you. The problem in Karamoja is becoming visible to the country through the neighbors, the smoke, but not the fire. How can 3,000 people die more than COVID killed? And we are sitting here. The problem of Karamoja is because 80%, first of all, are illiterate, and they are the majority. They find their own method to solve problems. The 20% of us who go to school continue to be affected, and the neighbors. We need a lasting solution for Karamoja, and there is a solution, Madam Speaker. The solution is education. Free compulsory education for 10 years. Otherwise, we shall solve now this problem. In 10 years, we shall come back here and find the warriors have recruited another 80% to follow their trade. If we give free compulsory education, there is no stupid, insane person who will go running around the bushes stealing other people's property.
That is an amendment. We amend.
I want to move a motion to amend.
We amend
the prayer number 10.
Yes.
That this house resolves that free compulsory boarding, primary and secondary education be given to Karamoja for the next 10 years. And it is cheaper than the billions of shillings we are spending on buying bullets and guns.
Is the amendment seconded? And actually what the chairman is saying is very correct. Maybe that would change the mindsets of people in Karamoja. That could help us in solving this problem forever. Abedi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, may I conclude? Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, through this education, the recruitment of young men into warrior will stop. And we shall come here in 10, 15 years and thank this government for the great work it has done. It will be the best policy move for us as a government and the people of Uganda. The the Toposa, the Pokot, the Turkana on our borders are not having this thing internally inside the house. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Abedi.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Allow me to add value to this motion as a veterinary doctor and also as the Shadow Minister of Agriculture. Right Honorable Speaker, there are two tools which we haven't deployed in Karamoja in regard to cattle rustling. The tool of cattle branding, animal branding. Animals are branded according to the owner, according to the sub-county, according to the district. Another tool is a tool of radio frequency emitting devices, where microchips are inserted under the skin of an animal. Both these tools are not expensive tools. They are not expensive tools. I want to pray, Right Honorable Speaker, that the motion be amended to include a prayer that in this year's budget, we include funding, we provide for funding to ensure that we brand all animals in Karamoja and the surrounding region, the surrounding areas. And also, we provide for the radio frequency emitting device. These are simple tools that are deployed internationally, and the vets in this country should be allowed to do their work in addition to security. The cattle rustling can be handled. I so pray.
I've seen Honorable Nandala there. Bogisu. He's not seated, he was standing. He's representing Bogisu.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. I had told my Amran here, Kulo, that relax. I'm going to represent Bogisu and the part of it. Madam Speaker, first of all, I want to thank the opportunity. I'm not only representing Bogisu, even I represent Teso, because that's the area, you know. Madam Speaker, the issue of cattle rustling is a serious matter. And one of the reasons why the Ministry government is doing compensation to maybe Teso, some cooperatives, is a result of cattle rustling. But Madam Speaker, there must be a deliberate effort because cows don't just move in pockets in what? There must be something happening which we must deal with. How does a cow move from one sub-county to move 20 kilometers without being noticed that a cow is moving? And this is something government should come up clear to tell us what happens. Of course, they have told us our colleagues from Turkana have been coming to steal our cows, and they are telling us that among ourselves as Karamajongs, ourselves. But how can a cow move 20 kilometers without notice? So, Madam Speaker, I want to make also an amendment to this motion. But since the other friend of mine has brought up the issue of that the government should make free education, I would suggest that the government should come up with a policy. We build a wall, but in wall, like a Trump. Yes, I get it. Madam Speaker, it is possible. As a wall, even a chain, so that it would be easy to be identified, because they have cattle rustled for many years, and we have not really made a lot of losses.
You know one thing, Amran, we need to coexist, and that is not a national perspective that we would believe in. We need to live with each other. So the issue of the fence wouldn't work out. Let's just see how we forge a way out to have peace.
Okay, Madam Speaker, I agree. If we are doing the international integration, we should also do ask our colleagues across that if we're in economics integration. Free movement of people does not mean free movement of animals. Animals don't have to move freely. So, Madam Speaker, I want
the PM is saying she wants to make a statement first.
Okay.
Let the Prime Minister,
Yes, sir.
because this is the body that is going to help us.
Procedure, Madam Speaker.
Members, let's proceed.
Madam Speaker, we always use our rules to suspend some issues. Madam Speaker, this is a matter that has touched the lives and property. Is it not procedural right if we suspended Prime Minister's time to next week and we deal with this matter which has affected the people of Teso? Madam Speaker, that would show how committed the government is that they can even forego Prime Minister's time in order to deal with the situation in Teso and the neighboring districts. Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, what we want to be acted upon is on the document. We want a commitment from government. And the amendment that we need to make on this is the timeline. If you're talking about disarmament, how much time are we giving these people? If we are talking about providing food to the affected areas, how much time are we giving? Because all our debate is, we are repeating on the same thing. We are repeating on the same thing. What matters is the problem being solved? So can we hear from the ministers, the two ministers? You're not going to distract me with your procedures.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I want members to note that government has taken note and has been taking note of the problems we have in the country, especially in the areas of Karamoja and the surrounding districts. Yesterday, but one members came here and said the Prime Minister should come up with a statement on the rising prices of commodities. And we have prepared this statement. And I look at this as urgent. Then too, the problem of the African armyworm. I am being sincere to you, this one is also like another pandemic. It's a big problem. Right, Honorable Speaker, I request that during this Prime Minister's question time, I have been uploading all the answers of members' questions, and they have these answers. I would request that we can use just a few minutes, and then we go back, and we inform the public and our people who are stranded in our villages, suffering and losing hope, so that we can give them hope. What has government done? I request honorable members.
Madam Right Honorable, you want to make a presentation on the skyrocketing prices?
Yes.
At the Prime Minister's time?
Yes, that's what I want. I wanted members to note that I have uploaded. Yes. Now, I have a statement.
Let's first finish this one. Let's first adapt to this motion. This motion. Members,
it is all right.
We have an amendment of
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, it's with pain that we speak again today, Madam Speaker, after again 20 years, because I was here when that motion was moved by Honorable Mukola on the 14th day of March, 2002. No wonder it's again 14th day of March, 2022. Madam Speaker, for us who come from Teso and the neighboring regions, we are so embarrassed because we think the government is doing this intentionally to embarrass the Vice President, the Speaker who come from this area. There is no way we can be seeing this happening in the area where the Vice President, the Speaker, the deputy CDF, the deputy land force commander is coming from. We are being abused and embarrassed that this is happening at this time. Government must tell us why it's taking a snail speed to address this matter. I want UPDF to tell me why they cannot act like the way we acted to go to DRC. We want to know, unless some people have intentions of stealing cows, which, Madam Speaker, I'm going to tell you. One colleague, a member of this House, told me how one of the members has been. The other one, his voters called him that cows has been brought to me. Send us money, we want to buy cows. Madam Speaker, I'm going to tell you, the Honorable Member of Parliament. There is business happening in Karamoja. I don't know why the president has taken time to change the leadership of the division in Karamoja. Madam Speaker, when we were in Soroti with the president, he asked the division commander, why can't you have roadblocks? Cows don't move by air. He failed to answer. He failed to answer. I know UPDF has the capacity to stop the cattle raids, but there are people who want to take advantage to make Karamoja continue to be behind. They are profiteering. There are people who are dealing with the cows. I lived in the Wharton area during the 90s, during the 2000s, we suffered. But there are people who are businessmen. Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member, I thought you're moving an amendment on the time.
I'm coming to that. I was giving the background, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our colleagues who come from that region was been affected. Honorable Okiror, Honorable Esenu, the Olympic District, Kapelebiong, Toroma here. They are in pain, they are in pressure. From the constituents, from the people who come there. But we speak because we have faced the wrath from the cattle restaurants. They have ever been to Serere. They have been to Palisa. They have been to Sebei. They have been everywhere. They have been to Kitugum, Agago, name them. So, Madam Speaker, I believe the UPDF has the capacity to deal with this situation. Can you police act and act fast? Why have you reduced the number of us two people, us two force? Because us two force, when it was based there, fully-fledged force, it was able to deal with the situation. In 53rd Battalion, there are cows which are in the barracks in the 53rd Battalion. It was asked the political commissar of that battalion why the cows are still in the. He said, no, we are still waiting.
Honorable members, as I informed you, these issues have been captured. We've captured all these issues. And it is because of this motion that everybody is going to Karamoja now. And for your information, even the president is going to Karamoja on that issue tomorrow. But we want the security personnel that is there to be changed. I don't want to name the person because we know the names of the persons. It's called who? You say it on the microphone.
So now, Speaker, he's called the Afande Bali Kudembe. I think he's a brigadier, Bali Kudembe Joseph. It's funny that he's also sharing a name with me. And Madam Speaker, what is happening? You cannot have rustling, but cattle is ferried on vehicles at night. Then there is an intention. The bullets being given out and they are cash, the ones they are getting are manufactured from Nakasongola, meaning that they are very recent. Then lastly, right now, Speaker, Karamoja had LDUs. They were doing very good work. The honorable member, Remedios, is not following. But these people were brought this way and removed from Karamoja. You cannot manage this armament without using local people, the locals. So who takes bullets manufactured from Nakasongola to these people of Karamoja? These are bullets either sold out by the fellow soldiers and making business.
But also when you hear what Honorable Nandala said, how can cows move from one area for about 20, 30 kilometers without security realizing that the cows are being stolen? And these cows are being escorted by security
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, as I conclude, Madam Speaker, I will give you the name of this RDC. When he raised the matter in the 53rd Battalion, he was told, please, can you go slow on the thing? Because he was querying why cows have continued to be in that discharge. The cows have been there for over a month. They said, what are these cows doing here?
Can we hear from the minister?
So, Madam Speaker, I support the motion and believe this should be acted on. We should see the deployment there within a week's time, such that people settle and go back home. Thank you.
Can we have deployment within 1 week's time so that we are sure? We are going for Easter, but we're even scared of going back to our homes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I beg to move an amendment on the motion, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, we have heard.
Aisha, why don't you put on a mask?
Thank you so much. I beg your pardon. We have had cases of torture, and I have not had any prayer to that effect. And we have indeed a person being pulled by.
Aisha, the torture which is there is out of people who are stealing cows. Because if I get you stealing my cows, can I leave you just like that?
The amendment I wish to bring, Right Honorable Speaker.
That one, leave that one. Honorable Minister, our torture is based on our cows.
Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I've taken note of the motion moved by the Honorable Esenu, and indeed the earlier petitions, because this is not the first one, to this House, including that raised by Honorable Kirol Bosco, MP Usuk County, regarding the matter of cattle rustling and related insecurity within Karamoja and the neighboring districts. This rekindles our common effort and interest to seek solutions with government. This Honorable House, Right Honorable Speaker, had also asked government to come out with a concrete plan to address the problem. So I want to assure members, including the mover of the motion and the Honorable Nakut in particular, that don't lose hope. Government has no intention of abdicating its I want, in passing, to report that government has not been sitting and doing nothing. Civil engagements have been made at various levels across government, led by the president himself, the vice president, and like we've been informed, the president is going there tomorrow. Had it not been for the misfortune of losing the speaker, he would have had the meeting earlier to find solutions. Through these engagements, Right Honorable Speaker, evaluation of the problem and what needs to be done and some interventions have been made, even as I speak. At an appropriate time, very soon, Honorable Speaker and members, we shall report back with a detailed plan of action on how to tackle this matter. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I would like to seek clarification from Honorable Minister. Honorable member from Karamoja stated very clearly that after the disarmament, Karamoja was peaceful for 10 years. I would like to find out from you, where are the current guns coming from?
Yes.
Who are the people supplying guns to Karamoja currently?
Yes.
What is unique currently? And where are the bullets coming from? We were told it is coming from Nakasongola. Right Honorable Speaker, let the minister be very clear. Where are the sources of those guns that are coming to Karamoja currently?
Another clarification.
You know,
Another clarification, Honorable Speaker.
honorable members, the minister is not one of the rustlers. What we are telling, listen.
Clarification.
What we are asking the minister is to adapt our resolution. And that is that. We want disarmament to be done. And members are saying the cows that have been taken should be compensated. Because there is evidence that some of these things are just criminal. They are not rustlers. Honorable Minister.
Another clarification, Honorable Speaker.
Members, let's hear from the minister.
It is Minister.
As I was saying, Right Honorable Speaker, we are yet to present a concrete plan of action to answer all the members' concerns and questions. And in this, if I can pick highlights, we shall look at the whole concept of operations and share it with the House, and the approach that we think can address this matter conclusively. But regarding specifically the issue of security, we are looking at a tri-dimensional approach to look at the border areas, international borders, especially Kenya and South Sudan, to look at the neighboring districts and how to protect them from incursions from Karamoja, and then to handle the problem in Karamoja itself within the 9 districts that constitute Karamoja. And then we shall also look at the accompaniments for this to take effect, the forces and their levels and spread, intelligence enhancement, logistics aspects, mobility, security roads, water points, communication, etc. And then command and control issues, the quality and tours of duty. While it's true, Right Honorable Speaker, that some forces were removed, they are going to be removed and they are being replaced now.
We firstly need to finish. We leave the minister to finish.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
I am saying that we leave the minister to finish. You conclude.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. About the issue of troops being moved from Karamoja, indeed they were removed for a justifiable purpose, but we are replacing them now. We've got a replenishment of forces. On LDUs, we agreed, Right Honorable Speaker, especially LDUs from Karamoja, that they were part of the problem and we disbanded them. That one was agreed with the leaders. I remember even when I was CDF, we agreed with the leaders because these were becoming part of the problem. Right Honorable Speaker and members, other cross-cutting measures.
Honorable Minister, what about the militia from different districts?
I would want to be cautious on that one, Right Honorable Speaker, because in a way it would be to submit to the idea that government has failed to provide security.
Okay, LODUs for other districts.
LDUs, ma'am, that one is possible. And of course, we'll need the support of the House because it needs.
No, it is in the resolution that we want you to deploy in all those border districts.
We shall come back with a plan, ma'am. The other cross-cutting issues, education, will be addressed in the plan.
Information.
Honorable members, I want to thank you so much for this effort. I want to thank you for this effort. And issue, a very important issue that must be taken in action. That must be taken in action. It concerns the lives of the people. I know all of you want to debate, but we will not have that time. We will not have all the time. Imax Cecilia, for now, you first sit. Let me just hear a word from the Lord. 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. At last, you have caught your eye. Why I raised the clarification, I needed from the minister clarity, especially on the major outcry of the motion that there is thin military deployment to counter these raids. And as you were taking us through some of the plans that you are mooting, you have not actually mentioned anything to do with the 10 after the disarmament, which disarmament has never ended actually. That's why in the course of the communication with the speaker, she was also wondering whether there has to be a timeline to end this armament. But what is grave is that when you go through the statistical data of Karamoja Development Forum, we realize Karamoja is highly rich in natural resources. And the land has been gazetted 40% for wildlife, 64% for government institutions, 12.5% for forestry conservation, 24.8 mining concessions. Now the rest, Karamoja, as we talk, has been invaded with land speculators and grabbers. And these have illegally acquired vast chunks of land. And that is another time bomb. As the Karamojongs are engrossed in these cattle rustling fights, the innocent Karamojong inhabitants of the land are losing it slowly. And that is another time bomb, which has to be addressed or nipped in the bud in advance. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. As I mentioned before, we need a deployment at the borders. As I mentioned before, we need deployment at the borders, outside borders, and then district borders.
Noted, Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members.
And I'm giving you 1 week to report back to the House on the security situation in the area.
We will present a cross-government solution to the House, Right Honorable Speaker.
We need a disarmament after every fortnight on the disarmament.
Noted, Right Honorable Speaker.
And I want to thank you, all honorable members, those who have spoken and those who have not spoken. I know you represented everybody, and the report is here. All I want is implementation. I'm one of the beneficiaries, for your information. My cows were also stolen. I want to thank you so much. I now put a question that a resolution of Parliament urging government to immediately stop cattle rustling and restore peace, security, and stability in the sub-region of Teso, Lango, Acholi, Karamoja, Bugisu, and Sebei be adopted with amendments. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary, nay. Next.
Item 4, statement by the Prime Minister on the invasion of the African armyworm.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, allow me to thank you for the motion, and I want to pledge on behalf of government and inform you that the NRM government is known when it comes to handling security matters, and this issue of cattle rustling will come to an end. Right Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, the statement on the invasion of the African armyworm. As you are already aware, honorable colleagues, it has been confirmed that in over 40 districts, the invasion of this armyworm has taken and threatening the livelihoods of our people. The most affected crops are maize, millet, sorghum, wheat, as well as pastures. It has also been observed that they feed on sugar cane. As of yesterday, Right Honorable Speaker, the outbreak, which was first reported in March 2022, was now confirmed in the following districts: Mukono, Wakiso, Kataku, Bukedia, Bugwere, Serere Busia, Bugirimitiana, Kiriandongo, Namutumba Kumiruwero, Kasese, Masindi Soroti na Kapiripiriti, Bulambuli Hoima, Amuria, Luka, Kwania, Oyam, Kaliro, Ngoya Buko, Chiruhura, Chikuve, Lira, Chiboga, Mbale, Apache, Kumi, Liantonde, Kisoro, Amulata, Kabera Maido, Nakaseke, Nakasongora, and Tororo, and many others, as the report showed yesterday. The invasion of the African armyworm is currently spreading quickly because of the wind and dry weather, as well as the delay of the onset rains. They are currently attacking the recently planted younger crop of cereals. Honorable Speaker and colleagues, government through Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Industry and Fisheries is responding as follows. 1. The Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries has procured 23,000 liters of the recommended insecticide known as the cypermethrin 5EC and is distributing it to the affected districts to demonstrate its use to the effective control of the pest. The ministry has so far also acquired 100 motorized pumps and 200 sets of the protective gear for use in the affected districts. Farmers have been advised and sensitized that when the caterpillars are detected, they should spray using cypermethrin 5EC, using a dosage of mixing 100 to 120 milliliters of the pesticide in 20 liters of water. They have also been advised to take precautionary measures to protect themselves against the side effects of the pesticide by putting on protective gears such as gloves, face masks, gumboots, and overalls. Number 4, distributors of this insecticide have been requested to stock enough supplies. And 4, the ministry has also dispatched inspectors, including our ministers. They are in the field to aid in the surveillance and provide guidance on the control. Honorable Speaker, the 100 UPDF personnel area trained to fight the locusts invasion will be deployed to support ground by spraying these armyworms. Number 7, national, district, and sub-county task forces are being formed to support surveillance and response to this problem. Honorable Speaker, finally, the public is advised to continue monitoring and report to the nearest authority any sign of the outbreak. The sub-county, the parish chiefs, now that they are there, and of course, our technical staff. I've also attached a list of the affected districts and specific areas as reported by the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. My brother, the Honorable Minister for Animal, is here. If he can add something, he's welcome.
And maybe when he's adding something, you will need to tell us whether this chemical is not dangerous to living animals, like what Wilson had said, that what was provided was, they had indicated that it was dangerous to living animals. So you need to give us information whether it is safe for.
Now that I have somebody who has been in that ministry longer, let him come and give us this information.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, about 1,407 farmers have been affected. Say that we have provided pesticides and also pumps and guidance to the farmers. We advise that where you have sprayed, you don't allow animals to graze in the very area for some time to avoid the animals getting sick. We are also praying that the rains come soon, because when they come, they disrupt the breeding cycle of the moth. And people should know that it's only the caterpillar stage that is very destructive. So when rains come, they will be washed away, and that will end the breeding cycle of the armyworm. So, Right Honorable Speaker, we are at the top of this situation, and in case rains don't come, then we shall have to come back to Parliament seeking for support to widen the intervention. But currently, we are in control.
And honorable members, maybe it is good you've gotten the information. What we wanted to know is the number of districts that are affected, what government is doing, and as you go for Easter, members, you need to advise your constituents that if the place has been sprayed, the living animals now should not go and graze in that period. I mean in that place for them to live. He said 1 week. Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, thank you, and Minister, thank you. A clarification I'd like to give. There are some agronomic practices that have been cited on the number of meals that can be applied in a 20 liters, but the coverage of the mix is not listed. And in the report, it has been highlighted that the herbicide is available. I mean, the pesticide is available, but very many districts are reluctant at picking their doses from the ministry. What we see are the interventions at the national level with the Ministry of Agriculture. As we go down, we are only hearing of UPDF, UPDF, UPDF. Can we have a plan of how the ministry, with its professionals, are going to move and reach the local governments through use of our district agriculture officers who are just allocated 700,000 shillings to offer agriculture extension every year? We would like to hear that plan. And Right Honorable Minister, we are also waiting to see your contribution as far as climate change management is concerned. Because yesterday, but one, we were talking about wildfires. Yesterday, we were talking about the destruction of energy infrastructure due to enormous winds. Right now, we are talking about limited rains and winds. And all this is because of climate change, global warming. We are supposed, all of us in the different ministries, come up with mechanisms for planting trees that are going to consume this carbon, such that we stabilize our weather. Otherwise, this business of rain-fed agriculture such that we can blow with the armyworms cannot be accepted. We cannot remain like that. We must do something as also God helps us. Thank you so much.
If I could ask a question, a simple question. We as leaders should act as example. Can each of you tell me how many trees you have planted around your area? Yes. Let's start with our leaders first. Go plant trees. Teach the locals to plant trees before we talk about the climate change. Let's start with ourselves. Yes? No, she was seeking for a clarification from the minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The plan to reach out to the farmers is available because we reach local government through production departments. And I want to inform the House that we have increased the extension workers in preparation for the parish model. So these extension workers are receiving direction from our inspectors in affected areas. Unfortunately enough, this is not a strange worm. It has happened before, and they know how to deal with it. So we are actually dealing with local government using extension workers to reach the farmers. Can I explain? Let me first finish one. The issue of farmers, giving farmers information about the availability of the pesticide is very, very important for farmers like you and me, where there is a shortage of supply from government. You can go and buy it and use it. So it was only fair that while we give government intervention in the immediate affected areas, that we inform farmers and all farming communities of what measures to take in case it happens. Right Honorable Speaker, the issues of climate change and failed weather condition is not only for Minister of Agriculture, it's for all of us. It's a global concern. That's why we in the Ministry of Agriculture, we are now focusing on water for agriculture production on farm. Yesterday we are in Abim. The day before we are in Teso sub-region. So we are actually taking the lead to ensure that we provide water for both livestock and crop resources. So while we appreciate the weather-failed conditions, is that Uganda, we are not sitting back and watching. You are aware we have made several interventions. We have rehabilitated several irrigation schemes, and actually as farming community.
Thank you,
Yeah, thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, I would like to seek clarification.
Honorable
Yes, right.
Olanya, we don't smuggle in.
No, yes, given. I'm just. Right on, Speaker.
Please sit.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Clarification from the Minister. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, Oyam district, where I represent, has been invaded by this worm, and you have mentioned it. The clarification that I'm seeking is one. Most of the farmers already planted the seeds. What plans does the ministry, your ministry, has to compensate the farmers? Because they don't have seeds to plant anymore. And Madam Speaker, agriculture contributes about 22% of the GDP, which provides us with food and incomes. And if this one is destroyed and the farmers don't have seeds, then we have a looming famine coming. So I want that clarification from the minister. Then finally, you have talked about using pesticides, and animals are not supposed to go and graze there. But Madam Speaker, as I was reading,
is a no-go zone for the bees. I would like you to give some kind of clarification. What do we do with the bees? Because even our farmers are also bee farmers. Thank you.
Honorable Sandra, what do bees go and do in the garden? What do bees go and do in the garden? Hmm?
I'm adding on the clarification. Madam Speaker, I'm seeking clarification from the minister about these procurements. We appreciate the 100 motorized pumps and the 200 sets of protective gear, but honestly, against 40 districts, if you divide, literally it is 2 pumps per district. Is that adequate? That is one. Even the protective gear, 5 of them per district cannot be adequate. And you look at the districts, for instance, where I come from in the Mugis sub-region, you have earmarked Manafa. And the Manafa is sandwiched between 3 other districts, Bududa, Namisindwa, Mbale, and we are bordering Kenya. And from the information, the one migrated from Kenya. By the time you are done with Manafa, then the rest of the districts will be worse. And then the dosage, you have done well to give us the doses, but you could have considered acreage. How much or how many liters are sufficient for an acre? Here it is still confusing, and I don't think the 23,000 liters will suffice of this cypermethrin.
Honorable Minister, I want us to really look at the issue of prices, skyrocketing prices.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. First, my sister from Oyam, we have actually sent pumps to Oyam and the chemical. And we have also briefed the extension workers. Now, the issue of compensation is that here in Uganda, we are not in that category of the developed world. We have never developed a compensation policy, and we have never discussed it here in Parliament, be it for livestock or crop resources. But what we do, when there is a disaster, we come in to help the farmers to reinstate their capacities and try to rehabilitate their loss. Secondly, Honorable Nabesh, you are very right. The equipment we have sent and the chemical is not very adequate. What I can say is that the Ministry of Agriculture has not existed today. In the farming community, there are so many pumps available there for different purposes. And what we are giving them is an additional and empowering them. And I'm quite very sure, even in Ergon, you know, that the farmers have got these spray pumps. And the same spray pumps will be used to spray these caterpillars. Now, these caterpillars, it is true that the area was not stated, but we are affected surface area is 5,665 hectares. So in whatever we are doing, we are actually factoring it in. But the good news is that the pesticide works instantly, and the chemical is biodegradable. So if you leave it for 3 days, it will have no effect on human beings and on animals. But we are taking precaution, because if it is fresh and children or a human being and you swallow something with it, it will affect you. So, Right Honorable Speaker, thank you for your guidance. And we shall be coming next week after Easter to brief you on the progress on this armyworm.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. We need constant update on the progress of what is happening. And that means we need to plan for food shortage soon. As you do your budgeting, don't ask Prime Minister for food. Do your budgeting properly so that you budget for any eventuality that happens, especially if the worms eat everything. Prime Minister.
Right, Honorable Speaker, like I had earlier told you, that we have organized a statement on the rising prices, we say so, commodities in the country. I would request that you give me time and I call Honorable Bahati to come and give us this statement.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues. The purpose of this statement is to explain to the House and the country the drivers of the recent rise in the consumer prices of selected essential commodity products and government policy responses in the short term, medium term, and the long term, but also invite people's representatives to have an input in the solutions to the current crisis. Madam Speaker, in recent months, for some of the essential commodities and services, these include laundry, bar soap, domestic fuel pump
Do you
prices.
have the document?
We put it there. It's uploaded.
Honorable members. Yes, Boris.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the minister is presenting a report that is not anywhere. We don't have it uploaded, and I think the machine should be put to good use. Can we kindly have the report before it is discussed, Right Honorable Speaker?
I think you just want to talk on a microphone because I am the first to raise to ask whether it is you have the report. Clerk, can you make sure this is uploaded? You can still go ahead and listen. Go ahead and listen. This is a very crucial matter.
Thank you.
Let's listen. You're going to get the document on your iPads. Can you, Muko? My Muko, you sit. You sit. No, I don't need support. I don't need support. I'm chairing in the house. Can we listen?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was saying in the recent months, there has been a significant increase in prices for some of the essential commodities and services. These include laundry, bar soap, domestic fuel pump prices, cooking oil, some food crops like matoke, sweet potatoes, onions, extra, education services, and building materials like cement, steel, among others. Overall monthly inflation increased by a considerable 1% between July and February 2022. This, Madam Speaker, is the highest monthly change in inflation, also increased considerably from 2.7% in January 2022 to to 3.2% in February 2022. In March 2022, there was a further increase in annual headline inflation to 3.7%. Madam Speaker, I want to make a small comment on the trends in domestic prices. According to the information from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, cooking oil has registered the highest rise in the price by 5.6% between December 2021 and March 2022, and 34% in rise in the past 1 year. The price of land-raised bar soap has increased by 41.8% between December and March 2022, and 72.7% in the last 1 year. While fuel, especially petrol, has risen by 13.2% in the past 4 months and by 35% during the past 1 year, among other items. As a result, the consumer price index for March 2022 increased 3.7% from 3.2% in February 2022. At this rate, Uganda's inflation remains within the target of 5% and one of the lowest in the region, despite the increase in the prices of some of the essential items. Madam Speaker, it's also important for members of this House to know and note that worldwide annual inflation rate has increased. For example, the USA accelerated 8.5% in March 2022, the highest they have recorded in 40 years. While UK inflation increased 7% in March 2022, the highest they have recorded since 1992. Likewise, prices have increased in several of the emerging economies, such as Brazil at 11.3%, India at 6.9%, as well as in developing countries like our neighbors, Kenya, 6.3%, Rwanda, 7.5%, and so forth. So it is a worldwide trend. Madam Speaker and colleagues, there are a few reasons that I want this House to be aware of for the price increase of some of the essential goods. The recent increase in the prices of essential commodities is as a result of events that have occurred outside Uganda. Uganda is a net importer of intermediate raw materials used in the production of items such as refined cooking oil and laundry bar soap. These reasons, the causes, are outlined below, but not exhaustively, but these are some of the reasons I want to highlight. The first one is the effect of COVID-19. The effect of COVID-19 restrictions across the world disrupted supply chains, leading to higher transport costs and shortage of soap, cooking oil, and others. In the recent past, global economy has faced high shipping costs, a shortage of shipping containers, and high fuel prices, leading to supply of shortages globally. In addition, adverse weather conditions in South America have led to low production of wheat and edible oils. But also, some of the SOPs adopted worldwide, for example, quarantine, the requirement of quarantine for 14 days in China and other countries also affected the logistical supplies of these materials. Secondly, the full opening of economies globally following relative containment of COVID-19 has led to a rapid rise in aggregate demand for a number of fast-moving goods, beginning with oil, yet production levels had been constrained by COVID restrictions. Demand is increasing, but for a number of years, 2 years, there has been constraint on the side of production. This has led to the increase in prices everywhere in the world. Last point, the situation has been worsened by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has further disrupted the supply of oil, cereals such as wheat, corn, sunflower oil, as well as essential metals like aluminum and nickel. The two countries are major producers and exporters of these commodities. It's important to note that the two countries, Russia and Ukraine, are major producers and exporters of these commodities. And in times of war, factors, prices of several commodities and services in Uganda, pressure. The affected commodities include cooking oil, soap, fuel, and education services. I want to bring to this House some few facts about specific items, and I'll just speak to the Rwanda bar soap and oil, and then fuel. The prices, Rwanda bar soap and cooking oil, the prices of cooking oil and Rwanda soap have risen mainly due to the rising price of crude palm oil at international markets. Approximately 70% of crude palm oil used as an input in the production of these two commodities is imported. 70% of the raw materials to produce cooking oil and soap is imported. So if anything happens on the side of the import, then the price also is affected. Manufacturers import these raw materials mainly from Malaysia and Indonesia. The two leading surplus producers of palm oil are these two countries. In 2021, the two countries accounted for 84%. So all the palm oil in the world used, Malaysia and Indonesia accounted to 84%, meaning that if there is anything that affects those two countries, then the other countries are affected. In the past 2 years, crude palm oil prices have almost doubled, driven mainly by two factors. Increased demand for palm oil, driven by growing importation by China and India, the two largest buyers of palm oil globally. Severe labor shortages in Malaysia due to COVID-19 protocols, export restrictions introduced in Malaysia and Indonesia that limit the export of crude palm oil, as well as extreme weather conditions in Malaysia and Brazil, which have affected palm oil production. They are the highest exporter of palm oil, but again, they put restriction to export this palm oil to other countries, and Uganda was also affected. In addition, the decrease in the global sunflower and soybean oil exports from Brazil, Peru, Argentina, which are close substitutes of crude palm oil, has increased the demand for palm oil and related products, thereby propping up the prices. Furthermore, the ongoing geographical tensions between Russia and Ukraine, the two nations that account for half of the global supply of palm oil substitutes, has exacerbated the global shortages, resulting in higher prices of raw materials, has further been affected by increasing logistics and transport costs. For example, shipping costs per a 20-foot container from Shanghai in China to Mombasa has increased from $3,050 in 2020 to now $6,100 in 2021. As a result, prices to meet the growing demand of their services following the full reopening of most of the economies in the second half of 2021 and early 2022. To offset the increases in freight and transport-related costs, manufacturers are passing on these costs to the consumers, and hence the increase in prices of these commodities. Let me say something about domestic fuel prices. Domestic fuel prices have also increased considerably, mainly due to the increase in international oil prices, which increased by over 112% between January 2021 and March 2022, and thus feeding through the domestic palm prices. The rise in domestic fuel prices has partly contributed to the increase in distribution costs for the manufacturers, since they rely on trucks to transport both raw materials and final products to markets. So the government is aware, and all of us are aware of what is happening about the price of prices. And government has been sitting and meetings taking place, chaired by the Prime Minister and all the stakeholders, including the manufacturers and others, to come up with some response solutions. As indicated above, the main cause of the recent increase in commodity prices is due to supply shortages on the international market, which has affected domestic prices. Therefore, the solution to recent price increase is to focus on addressing the challenges affecting the supply of these commodities. To this end, the government's policy response is aiming at implementing sustainable prices that will ensure policies that will ensure continued supply in the short term, medium term, and long term. Short term, medium term measures. In the short term to medium term, government will continue to support our farmers to grow more food and vegetable seeds and cereals to ensure sufficient domestic supply, as well as take advantage of the rising global and regional prices to boost our export earnings. Exports like maize can be used as substitutes by some of our regional partners who have been more dependent on the import of food from affected countries like Ukraine. In this regard, the government is fast-tracking the implementation, as you know, and in a few weeks we'll be discussing this in the budget, the parish development model, which targets increase in the production of strategic commodities for domestic consumption and export, especially targeting the 39% of the households of Ugandans who live in subsistence economy into the money economy, to build their capacity to withstand shocks such as price hikes in the circumstances. To cushion consumers against high fuel prices, government will continue to promote a free and fair competitive environment to support continuous supply of fuel. This will ensure that demand does not outstrip supply. We are working with the private sector to expedite the alternative fuel import routes across Lake Victoria to be able to mitigate the prices of the transport by vehicles. And that is being worked on with the speed that it deserves. Avoid unnecessary supply disruptions. We think that if we get an alternative route on the Victoria, we'll be able to decrease the costs of transport by almost 30%, which we hope that will feed into the prices of other goods, because fuel affects a number of, has a multiplier effect in terms of prices. Learning from the experience of other countries, colleagues and Honorable Speaker, government is avoiding, and I want to repeat this, government is avoiding implementing counterproductive and unsustainable policies like price controls, which result in supply shortages and subsequently further prices hikes. From empirical evidence by all economists tried to do price control, it has hit back on them through price control, through supply shortages and subsequently further price hikes. So we are trying to be sensitive to this matter. In the same vein, the use of subsidies and tax reductions are not only unsustainable, but also cause other problems to the economy. For example, they have the unintended consequences of creating market distortions, such as smuggling. If you put a tax at this time, you can encourage actual smuggling of some of those products. They do not benefit the intended groups, especially the lower income groups, people at the pyramid. You reduce the taxes, but these dealers again continue maintaining the same prices. They lead to revenue loss to government, which negatively impacts on service delivery. And also in the situation of COVID, to lose any coin now through revenue is not the wise decision. Mineral development has been and will continue to regulate the domestic fuel market to ensure that fuel price movements are a true reflection of the economic environment. To this, we want to commit to the people of Uganda that we are going to be monitoring the committee which has been put in place by the Prime Minister, monitoring to ensure that the fuel price movements are a true reflection of the economic environment. So nobody is going to over-increase the price of fuel under our watch. Government has taken keen interest in the reports of possible hoarding of some products that are currently experiencing price increases. Technical people to verify these claims with a view of taking punitive action, including revocation of trade licenses against anybody found engaging in this vice. A team is already on the move. Should you found doing this, we can even revoke your license. Additionally, government is fast-tracking the consumer protection law, which is currently before cabinet. The purpose of this is safeguard buyers of goods and services against unfair practices in the marketplace. Government, through the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and Bank of Uganda, will also continue to monitor the situation and respond using the appropriate fiscal and monetary policies to mitigate the impact of price shocks. Policies so far undertaken have ensured a low and stable exchange rate, which has ensured that prices will not get worse due to exchange rate depreciation. All of you who are monitoring our shilling, the performance of our shilling, you know that now the exchange rate is a bit low at 3,500, and the change has actually been, for the last 2 years, has been monitored to stay at that. It has never gone beyond inflation. Medium to long-term measures. Government medium to long-term policy interventions will include the following: construction of additional fuel storage infrastructure in Iburoba, the money that you already approved, to provide for strategic fuel reserves as another measure to cushion consumers from effects of fuel supply shocks. Furthermore, we have completed all preconditions of oil production, including securing the required financing and right of way for oil and gas related projects. And this House you have approved a lot of resources to support the Albertine area by improving the infrastructure. And when you go to Bunyoro now, you can see the infrastructure ready to support the production of oil. We are expediting implementation project activities to ensure timely start of oil production, as well as development of an oil refinery. Government will continue to support efforts to scale up production of palm oil, sunflower, and soybeans to ensure sufficient domestic supply. We have partnered with Bidco to grow palm oil in Kalangala, and we will provide more land to Bidco and Bukola Limited in Sango Bay to grow more palm oil. In addition, government will continue to provide support to farmers in northern Uganda and other areas to grow sunflower and soybeans for manufacturing oil. The global shortage of palm oil, sunflower, and soybeans provide an opportunity for Uganda to scale up production of the commodities to replace the imported content. Government will also continue their sources of livelihood from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic so that they can withstand such a shock. You recall, we put 481 billion in UDB. You have approved the money for other programs like Emyoga, Microfinance Support Center, Small Business Recovery Fund, Yes, there could be some challenges of implementation, but you have appropriated. And we are saying these resources can actually help our people to get out of this situation. The financial fair inclusion of the parish model and other programs. To ensure reduction in transport and production costs, we will continue to focus on infrastructure development, in particular, water transport, water for production, road maintenance, and the rehabilitation of the meter gauge railway. And you recall we also approved quite sizable number of, rather amount of money to repair this, and the process of repairing is ongoing. So, Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues, in conclusion, let me make 3 points. One, government will continue to implement the import substitution and industrialization strategy, support private sector to produce domestically some of the intermediate goods used to produce most of affected goods and services. Right, Honorable Speaker and colleagues, as you will note, most of the drivers of the price increases are global in nature. Our interventions will help to mitigate the negative impact of the recent global developments, and we urge the public to remain calm, but also to remain frugal as with their resources as we manage this. Madam Speaker, I've also informed you that there is a committee, a standalone committee in government to continue monitoring. If there is any administrative measure that we can take in the meantime, we'll be able to take them. Madam Speaker, lastly, we invite the people's representative to also have an input in the solution of resolving this crisis. I thank you.
Thank you. I am waiting for a number of licenses that are being revoked because most of these people are doing against what government has decided. So you need to take a very serious action on especially petrol stations. Members, we are supposed to get a report from opposition, and I will request Honorable Francis, the shadow, presents his report on Tuesday, and we will debate both reports. Out of respect for our Muslim brothers and sisters, whom I have invited to come here, kindly allow me join them. Thank you. I therefore adjourn the House to Tuesday at 10. I am saying 10.
Pick of the day on